good afternoon, evening to friends, family and followers. Grab yourselves a cup of tea, coffee and take a listen to tonight's video. As I'm making this video as a right to respond to address some extremely serious allegations made about a landlord and a tenant and against my business and me personally, which have come to light since last Thursday, and I only think it's fair to respond, to put correct information out there, and make sure that everybody understands and educate some legislation about the industry that I work in and about my business, which I'm extremely passionate about, which anybody that deals with me will know. So let me introduce myself for those of you that don't know. I am Beth Pollard. I own House and Home Bespoke. I'm the sole director of my business, and I'm extremely proud of what I have grown, developed and love working with my clients up and down the country, overseas and across the Vale of Belvoir. So thank you to those that have supported me over the last years. A little bit further then about me. I opened the beautiful Sherrard Street office in December 2024. I've been trading as House and Home Bespoke since 2022, and I changed the entity and legal entity of my business to Lettings by HH Ltd, as lettings was very prominent within my business. But we trade as House and Home Bespoke as it's more in keeping and more on brand. So across the country, I look after rental portfolios for overseas clients and UK clients, and I bring the very best to the market and are passionate about excelling in the industry. I then sell beautiful homes across the Vale of Belvoir, which is an area that I grew up in and love very dearly. For those that perhaps don't know about me very much, let me tell you. So I'm 39 years old. I run and own my business. I have worked in the industry for around 15 years. I started out with Countrywide, which is the biggest UK agent, or was before it was bought out by Connells, and got a very good grounding of what I wanted to do, how passionate and what I could bring to the industry. I started off in Halford Street in Leicester, moved through to Oadby and Birstall. I worked in Birmingham in the Land and New Homes department, and then moved in and out of a few jobs till I got to the point where I could open my own business and really excel at my true passion, which is property. I grew up in Queensway in Old Dalby. I went to Old Dalby Primary School, preschool, and then went to John Fernley High School and King Edward the 7th later, and then moved on as once upon a time I wanted to be a PE teacher, and went to Loughborough College and studied sport. So that's a little bit of background information. I have experienced in my short life, shall we say, death and divorce, which this person has alluded to. So my mum died when I was 21, and I got married when I was 30, maybe to the wrong man and maybe to the right man, who knows. And certainly the person that has written content about me clearly doesn't know, so let me put you straight. I professionally trade under the name of Beth Pollard, but my legal entity is Beth Schoper. Yes, that is a Polish name for shed or shack, as you have quite rightly pointed out, probably one of the right facts. I then got divorced. It took me 6 painful years to get divorced, leaving with nothing and building myself back up to where I am now. I do have a partner, a very lovely supporting partner, thankfully, after the weekend's events that I have endured. And here we are, sort of thing. This particular person and the allegations that have been made are really personal, really unprofessional and unprofound, really. In this video, I'm not going to mention the tenant or the landlord's name or the property address. And the particular person that I will address this to is Matthew Bland, who is not a client of mine. He's not a landlord of mine. He's not a tenant of mine. but he is out with Street Strike to make a personal and professional attack on my business. And that doesn't sit well with me, because I am not the person that is lazy in what I do, that does not address issues that are brought to me, and I deal with people very fairly and take matters very seriously of any vulnerable clients. So my rental portfolio runs from South London to Preston. I deal with society and different economic climates throughout the country. So I'm eyes wide open when it comes to this sort of thing. I recognise red flags. I'm not just an estate agent. I am somebody's therapist. I'm somebody's sounding board. I am the person that people go to when they've got a problem. I am their economic support. I am that person when they want to offload to in a professional and closed environment, people can do with the highest confidentiality. I am not just an estate agent that just sells houses or rents houses or puts them on the market. I am passionate and compassionate about what I do. So when Matthew Bland is telling me that I have caused the demise of a client's health and mental health, I take that accusation extremely seriously. Having family and friends that have got serious mental health problems, I certainly wouldn't want to make anybody's situation or living situation any worse. My job is to provide somebody a warm, safe house to live in, and that's what we strive to do. I have an all-female team, and I'm very proud of that, and I have a very close-knit team. So no messages get diluted, lost in the mix, and I have the process and systems in place to make sure that every tenant that I look after can report problems facelessly or in person, however they wish for that to happen, to communicate their problems to us as easy and as quickly as possible in line with their tenancy agreement. So I would like probably to bring to the question of, if this Matthew Bland, who has such an issue with people in Melton, businesses in Melton and individuals in Melton, why on earth would you want to live in Melton? So let's educate you a little bit on what the process is of a tenancy agreement. A tenancy agreement is there to protect all parties, landlords and tenant. It has clear definitions set out there, and it is really quite a hefty document that you're signing. It's not just a fag packet signature and let's go. It's a very in-depth, detailed document following your referencing process that is completed throughout any tenancy. The video that was released by Street Strike was a video that wasn't consulted with me prior to going out, was factually incorrect, and not in line with any legislation, and nobody had clearly done any due diligence about the property, because the tenant on every tenancy is furnished with a tenancy agreement. And every tenancy agreement, the back page is a checklist effectively of documents that you will have received, which covers off your tenancy agreement, your how to rent guide, which is a government document that we must supply with every tenancy, how to rent checklist, so that you've got everything, how to rent a safe home, a gas safety certificate should your property have a gas safety certificate. In this case, this property does have a gas safety certificate, and it is completed annually, and that we hold office copies records, as well as the tenant signing to say that they have received the documents. A energy performance certificate, that's 10 years, every 10 years that has to be completed. An electrical installation certificate, that has to be completed every 5 years, and if any faults are reported, they must be completed and remedial work done. In this case, no faults have been reported through our processing system. A schedule of payment, so the tenant knows exactly when their rent is due. Prescribed information for their deposit and where we are storing said deposit, and the terms and conditions for that. Again, every tenant has to sign to say they have received those documents, and obviously if they haven't received the documents, they shouldn't be signing. Every tenant signs a tenancy agreement under their own free will, and make sure that they are furnished with the correct documents that are in date. And obviously if there is a problem, it should be picked up there and then, and no tenant should be signing. This was highlighted in the video that the tenant hadn't received documents, and that is completely incorrect. I have the documentation on file in the office to prove that that was not the case. The video alluded to several problems, which again are serious matters that we take exceptionally seriously. And through our documenting process that we have in branch and that is communicated to all tenants, none of the issues were recorded. We recently completed an inspection at the property, and because we know that sometimes inspections can be intrusive, we do it either in person or electronically. In this case, we did it electronically, and it's a great opportunity for tenants to report further problems that they have found in the property. The problems that were highlighted in the video were problems that were not brought up again within the inspection. So no problems were reported to us and no problems were brought up in the inspection. I'm not telepathic, so unless I'm told about these problems, we can't act on them. We can't do anything. There's nothing visual stood out to us that we needed to act upon either, because we also had the documents to say that the property was safe for the tenant to live in. Heavens, I would not want my family members or friends living in something that is on my doorstep and that somebody could have a problem with or not be safe. It just does not sit well with me, and that's not the person that I am. A further issue that was brought up in the video by Streakstrike and Matthew Bland was that the tenant has forfeited their tenancy agreement, which they're quite within their rights to do if they're in if they're in a fixed term agreement. So in a short hold tenancy agreement is what a tenant signs into currently. That will change with legislation. However, section 8.1.3 of this tenancy agreement states that if the property is terminated early, forfeited, then the tenant would have to pay remarketing costs or reletting costs. That again is documented within their tenancy agreement that they signed for, so there is no miscommunication about that. It is there in black and white, and that is readily available for tenants to have an access to. The tenancy agreement covers so much information, and it would be too much to go through with you now, but the basic terms of the tenancy agreement are always set out as a schedule of terms in the very first instance. And if a tenant does come to us with any queries, the reason that they're wishing to forfeit, which we had a reason which was very different to the reason that was mentioned in the video that was recorded by Streakstrike and Matthew Bland. So when we get conflict in information, it's really hard to judge what we're supposed to be doing. All I can do is be guided by the terms of the tenancy agreement and my professional bodies to make sure that we're making the right decision, and based on the client's needs, we felt that the right decision is to forfeit a tenancy agreement and just pay the relet costs. I was quite within my rights to hold the client to the end of their tenancy agreement, which would be a good few months later and a lot more cost. But knowing the vulnerability of a client, I took a decision to make sure that client could be released from their tenancy agreement with ease, and that we would promptly try and find a new tenant as quickly as possible so that the client could be released, which is all happening in the background. So that's a lot of information to take in, isn't it, in a short space of time? But when you're personally attacked and your business is attacked on a Thursday evening, and a man, namely Matthew Bland, feels that they can come into my business and intimidate my team and try and manipulate a situation, I don't find it acceptable. Matthew Bland, as I said before, is not a client of mine, a tenant or a landlord, and wholeheartedly I will take my tenants and landlords' instructions and put their needs very clearly to what is required, and as quickly as we physically can. I acted on the situation very quickly, and Mr. Bland did offer to make a video of me to put me in the very best light. I don't need a video to put me in the very best light, but what I can do is tell my side of the story, and my side of the story is exactly this. So I champion this industry. I strive for excellence within the property world. I would hate for any other agent in Melton Mowbray to be targeted in such a way that I have been, and singled out for simply turning up, doing their job, running an efficient, effective business and providing houses and homes in a non-discriminatory way for tenants. I wholeheartedly champion the new legislation that's coming in terms of the Renters' Rights Bill. This is the biggest change in the industry in the last 30 years. This is going to be a massive change in legislation. It's going to bring about a lot of change for tenants that is going to need explaining to them so they know exactly what is happening and communicating very clearly too. When you've got tenants of all different backgrounds, nationalities, ethnicities that you're explaining new legislation to, it's very difficult. It's an awful lot of information to take in. But it's going to raise the standard of living, and yes, there absolutely are rogue landlords out there, but it's going to raise the standard of living, it's going to raise the standard of landlord. Some landlords, due to this legislation, are exiting from the market, and this has given a shortage of property to the rental sector. This is a problem. In Melton Mowbray itself, we suffer from exactly this problem. There isn't enough rental property to keep up with the demand. So again, where do people go to live? We need the industry to keep changing, to keep evolving, for industry standards to keep high as they possibly can, and to providing good quality homes to the market. And we also need tenants to enjoy the right for peaceful living in a warm, safe home, which is exactly what we have provided for this tenant. If there are problems with a property, it is within the tenancy agreement for the tenant to report the problems to the agent. Now, there are so many ways of communicating with an agent, and certainly this tenant did come to our office with an incident and we put his mind at complete ease. But it was a one-off incident, again, within none of the issues that have been documented in the video. We have a process. A business has a process for reporting problems. I will always take on feedback for somebody that thinks this process could be improved, and we will always look at that within my business that I am hugely independently passionate about. As I've stated before, no agent, and there will probably be agents that will be watching this video, should have to put up with the harassment, trolling and abuse that I have taken on in the last 48 hours, and my family being attacked. It is not acceptable. I am a tenant myself. I understand the landlord's needs and wants, and I understand how I'm to look after a property. I want an end to this calling out, harassment, slanderous comments that are out there on social media towards my business. The matter of this particular incident will be dealt with and gone through with the instructions of my landlord and tenant. The involvement of Mr. Matthew Bland is not required, and him picking me up and commenting, calling me out with poor or little information about me is completely unacceptable and uncalled for. The safety of me and my team is of paramount, and young ladies within this industry have been stalked, have been trolled and have ended up dead. I will not tolerate this behaviour towards me, my staff, my team, anybody that is connected to me. This is an end to that problem. Thank you for watching. Please share this far and wide for people's protection and safety and raising professional standards in the property industry. I am completely passionate about making this industry a regulated industry that is safe for people to work in a professional environment.